And welcome back to the ONNtv studios. Now joining me to my left is John Pedlar, a biologist with the Great Lakes Forestry Center here in Sault Ste. Marie. So John, how are you doing today?
Good, thanks.
Great,
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming in. We much appreciate it. So when I got the email in my inbox saying that you guys had a devised plan to kind of help with the invasive species like the Asian longhorn beetle, the emerald ash borer, and different things like that. But why are they actually a problem? What is it with them that is so invasive that we want to get rid of them to begin with?
Yeah, no, good question. So these are species that, as the name suggests, they come from afar, and once they arrive here in Canada, they tend to expand really quickly. And in the case of many of these insects, they'll actually wipe out, their preferred host or preferred tree species. And the reason they do that is because they don't originate here, so they don't have the typical sort of natural ecological checks that would be on a population. So the typical predators that would keep them in check don't really exist over here, so they're able to really run wild.
And how do we actually get them into our forests if they're not from here? I know things like bringing over campfire wood, I hear, is a big one for bringing over emerald ash borers, but what other kind of ways do they get here?
Well, a lot of these invasive species that we're seeing, not all of them, but many of them come from the Asian area, and a lot of those that are coming over in shipping, the wood pellets and the packaging materials that they package the goods in.
So what is it that you're doing at the Great Lakes Forestry Center to kind of help combat these, and maybe not combat them, but help have a better understanding of them?
Yeah, so what we've done is we've developed a survey, and the goal of the survey is to give us an idea of the composition, so in other words, the types of trees that we find along roadways in urban centers. And we want to know that information because one of the big costs, one of the big impacts that these invasive species have when they arrive here is that they damage or they kill these urban trees, and that's actually a really big cost to remove those trees and replace them with other trees.
And these are the trees that we see for like decorative use. Down if you're walking Queen Street, you see a tree up on the sidewalk that's used, some nice lights and stuff. So I guess you're right too, to get that tree out of the urban center, to tear up the ground, tear up the dirt, plant a new tree there.
Yeah, it can add up, certainly in the thousands of dollars per tree. So.
And now you guys did have a survey, I think it said 70% accuracy, but that might have changed now that you're using a more modern style of it, using Google Street, is that correct?
Well, yeah, we developed this survey about 10 years ago. This is kind of a side of the desk project for us, so it's something we're just kind of working away on the side. It's not a main focus, but it's something we do for fun on the side. And so about 10 years ago, we started developing it, and we used what we try to do is get a sample of the streets across the city. We don't sample every single tree in the city. We originally tested that just using boots on the ground, so walking streets and driving in vehicles. But after we did about 50 communities that way, we realized it was going to get pretty costly to do that approach. So we moved over to the Google Street View approach, and we're finding we get pretty good results. When we tested, we were getting about 70% accuracy for getting down to the species level, and about 90% accuracy for the genus level. So when I say the genus level, I mean you can put a tree into the general group it comes from, like a pine or a spruce or a cedar.
Okay,
or a
and then
kind of
it goes more specific, the pine family, the
yes, within the pines, there's all these different pines. Right. And I mean, it can be challenging even without even looking, at a tree, right at a tree. It can be challenging to get down to the species, let alone using Google Street
View. And we need a lot more than 5 minutes to go through all the different trees I get. Right. So now, what kind of results have you yielded? And with the results, what kind of information are you gathering and being able to use for, more awareness, more effectiveness in protecting these trees?
Right, yeah. So, we've done about 100 communities so far. I said about 50 with sort of on the ground surveys, and then 50 boots on the ground, and then 50 more with the Google Street View approach. And we're kind of focused on Eastern Canada. The beauty is with Google Street View, you can go anywhere, right? And right from the comfort of your office. So we focused on Eastern Canada. We're seeing, we have a sense of what the most common trees out there are. So that maybe no big surprise to people, but maples are the most common, followed by spruces, followed by poplars and birches and cedars, that kind of thing. So we're getting a sense of what's out there. For sure. Yeah.
Well, John, Are there any other projects you guys are working on before we wrap up this interview that you want to talk about maybe a little bit?
Good question. There's a lot of different things we're working on.
I mean, the Great Lakes Forestry Center is going to be a busy place, I can only imagine.
It is, and there's a lot of different scientists doing different work. In our group, we really focus on the exotic insects like we've been talking about here, and we also get into climate modeling. So we kind of try to bring climate change and insects together there in our group.
Well, John, grade 6 me would have really appreciated this conversation, as I did have a project on the emerald ash borer. So hindsight's 2020, but I want to thank you so much for joining me in the ONNtv studios, and we're going to wrap up this interview. So thank you so much for watching and sticking with ONNtv.